Hi, everybody. We're here again, and look who's with us. Markus is back, and we're so happy to have him here. And we have a full show for you, so stick around. Markus, will you tell us how things are on your end?
Yes. Well, the last couple of months were pretty much troubled for me because of family stuff I had to deal with. And well, I'm back and yeah, I'm looking forward to do the show with you guys. And honestly, I did not follow much of American politics in the past month. I only saw a little bit here and there, but I'm not totally into the topic. I just got to get into it again. And another reason was we got our own big elections here in Germany, and I will talk a little bit about it later.
And Keith, what about you?
Yes, I'll just say what I'm doing in a second, but could somebody in the chat just say that they're hearing us? Because it looks like we may still not have any audio. I just want to be sure about this.
No, I think
Yep.
everything is
Okay,
okay.
sound
Sound
now
fine now,
fine.
yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, all right. Now that we have sound, I repeat what I said when nobody was hearing me. And good to see you, Marcus. Glad you're back. And
Thank you.
yeah, in answer to your question, we didn't have a show last week, so it was time for me to kind of just step back and look at what's going on, like what I'm doing with the show, what we're doing with the show, what's going on in the world and everything. And it just seems like more of the same's going on, like the same uh, COVID stuff, environment stuff, filibuster stuff, rich robbing the poor stuff, the same old, same old. No great new developments. And in a way, that's disappointing because there's a lot of stuff that needs to get fixed. And so I kind of just step back, and I think my presentation will show that I've taken to this week. I'm taking a little different perspective, kind of stepping out and taking a bigger picture perspective, which you'll see. But it's good to see you, and it's good to um, I see in the deck we're going to be hearing about some stuff in Germany, and it's going to be nice to hear about some stuff besides our own baloney. And how
Well,
are
it's
things with you, Amos?
Well, I've been out last week. I went to camp and cave, just did some caving, and on my travels, I noticed something very odd that stuck out to me, and we will cover that later in the shorts segment as part of a topic. So it's about it. Like, let me just mention the the photoshopped card. Apologies, I didn't have time to make it perfect, but this is cinema flipping the bird to the voters, and that's going to be one of our topics here. Again, if you guys want to get in contact with us, regardless what platform you're watching on, we're you can just tweet with the hashtag UHM no joke. All
are
right,
you
so
sure? Are you sure this wasn't a convention of her? Because if you look at go back to the card, please. If you look at the background, everyone there is also dressed in yellow. It could also be a big fan base. Maybe I don't know.
it's a
As I said, I did not follow much politics in the past month, so I don't know what happened.
it's some sports event, but I thought it was a good
That may be a good
opportunity.
thing.
All right, so you wanna take us into the first topic?
Yeah, I will. First, I'll show that I'm a total nerd, and everybody will hate me. Okay, I read this huge, thick book. I mean, it was a challenge. This thing's like 600 pages long. I saw a video. It kind of turned me on because what we're doing here is we're kind of into human nature here. We're looking at what's going on in the world. We got some things to say about it, and anyway, I really got into it, and one of the chapters that interested me here was this chapter 12, where must become aware of your lost masculine and feminine traits and reconnect to them. And you have to do this to find all your creative powers. And so the book's very good, well researched. The author is Robert Greene. He wrote the 48 Laws of Power, which I have not read and hadn't really heard much of, and I probably will read it. But anyway, the point of this is that you have like this male and female side, and you kind of repress. You still have it, but you kind of repress, in your personality, and to be really authentic and being effective in the world, you got to be in touch with both sides. And he gives all sorts of examples of, and so, so in this particular example, he was talking about some one woman in particular who was Caterina Sforza, and she's like medieval. She's in Italy, just before Columbus discovered America, way back, and like anyway, it's really interesting because her family came out of this mercenary tradition and they became royalty, and the male and females, they're royal, so they're not being raised like normal people are, but the male and females were raised equally. And the reason was this family wanted to have value when they married their daughters off. They didn't want the kingdoms to fall, they wanted, to strengthen the family. And they figured out by making really capable, intelligent daughters, they could marry them off and be better for the family. So this one in particular, she went through 3 husbands, and she saved her like little kingdom as a remarkably one good leader. And anyway, so I got into that, and then I'm surfing the web, and I find this I'll mention the other one. Yeah. Lucrezia Borgia, she's famous. I won't say much about her except that her brother was the one that brought down Katrina. And anyway,
wasn't that the Pope's family?
Yes, Lucrezia was the daughter of Pope Alexander the Sixth, and popes could do it back then. And I guess this is one of the reasons why they couldn't, because she was the daughter, and also Caesarea Borgia was a son. And the son, and since he's the Pope, he wants to give his sons and daughters kingdoms. And so Caesarea was a cardinal, or anyway, he left the church and became this prince. And then he actually, the Pope decided that Katrina's lands should be his. And so he went in, conquered her. She very cleverly held him back, and she would have had reinforcements, like they were on the way. But somebody betrayed her and carried her over to the other side when she was defending her castle. And she was remarkably good she was remarkably good fighter, by the way. And she knew all kinds of military strategy and stuff. But anyway, she was betrayed, and then Caesarea raped her that night and threw her in prison. And she eventually, the French forced her to be released, but she was in bad health and died a year later. But by the time this had happened, she was like in her 40s, and she had already gone through 3 husbands and saved her kingdom twice, and just remarkably capable person. And the point is that she was able to use all her mental capabilities, which most of us are suppressing half of what we got, no matter. And one thing about it is her father this is really interesting. He was kind of a swishy guy, and like he was into these robes with bejeweled robes, which she and so since he was kind of on the other side, and so he was perhaps very comfortable with women developing their male side and becoming equal, since he kind of had, he was kind of a closet queen himself. And anyway, so I found that really interesting, and that caused me to watch a video it's a CBS News video, and I found it really interesting, just coming out of this chapter of reading about strong women, because this woman obviously fits the bill. What we're going to watch in the next slide is it's a CBS video, but it was 12 minutes long, and I'm really proud of myself the way I cut this down. I think it's just over 7 minutes, and we're going to watch the whole thing because it's all really good. But I took a lot of the repetition out, and part of what I took out, I got to tell you, is CBS put this out, and there was a lot of female bashing. I mean, the interviewer, which is Todd, I'm not going to blame Todd for doing this. It's probably all scripted. I mean, that's a whole production thing, but there were some very definite things. And I just plain cut them out because, like, why should the woman have to explain? Why should a woman have to explain why she writes a book to make money? I mean, a guy can do it. It's I've noticed several times, and also in another Netflix video I watched about some people who are escaping Scientology. This woman's being attacked and like, oh, well, she's saying this because she's being paid $1,000 a week by blah, 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 blah. And like, what like I noticed in the last week that women seem to have to explain why they have to make a living, and guys don't have to do that. And that's our culture right now. And that kind of sucks. So let's just head into this and watch it. And like I say, I'm saving you all guys a lot of time. So it's still really good. Haven't really taken anything substantive out of it. So let's go on to the next one. Yeah, it starts a little slow here because I threw the Cliff Notes on the front of it, because this is the abbreviated version. And this is the book she wrote.
Many times in Trump world, you're asked to misinform or perhaps lie on behalf of the boss. So you're doing a tell-all now. Why should we believe you?
In short, I don't have anybody to answer for anymore. I had a lot of time to reflect. I really moved far, far away from the bubble of D.C. and had a long time to almost deprogram myself from what I went through and reflect on it. And I wanted to write it down. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to write a book, I want to write something that is just honest and brutal. And, I don't spare myself in there either. And I hope that people will just take that for what it's worth.
Do you believe President Trump thinks he actually lost the election or not?
I do think he believes it. That's been part of what has been scaring me as I've been watching from afar. At first I really thought he wouldn't run again. I honestly thought this was a lot of his bluster, which, he's good at doing. He was doubling down. He'll never admit to losing, et cetera, et cetera. I thought he was going to just kind of raise some money so he could pay off legal bills, et cetera. But I think now, because his base is reacting to him the way that it is, and polls are showing that he is still very much the leader of the Republican Party, and very, very few Republicans are refusing to speak up about, his role in January 6th, but also this current attack on democracy with regard to election integrity. I think he is going to run again. And, that's why I'm speaking out the way I am. I don't want him to run again. I think people aren't remembering that if he does run again in 2024, he'll have no guardrails because he will never have to worry about re-election. So he will do whatever he wants. He will hire whomever he wants. And I think that includes people of the January 6th mind. And I think that, earlier your guest was talking about the DOJ and it being weaponized. Imagine who he could put into the DOJ in 2024, knowing he's got no consequences there.
Who was, you heard Senator Whitehouse saying, do you have an idea of who was helping sort of fund and back these crazy claims of the president and his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows?
Well, certainly I know, as does the public, that there was Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and some of those characters. I do know that there were a lot of private meetings in the residence taking place that were perhaps not taking place in the White House where there would be public documents about that. So hopefully the January 6th, or, somebody will look into that, whoever the appropriate entity is. I don't have a specific name. I don't think it was one person. I think there were probably a few.
So walk me through election night and the day after. There seems to be some evidence that he was accepting what was happening with the results and then something changed. Can you pinpoint it?
I can't. I was with Mrs. Trump most of the night, to be honest with you. I wasn't, when I walked past to go to her room, he was surrounded at that point and by a lot of people from the campaign and by his family, et cetera. And he was just angry and wanting somebody to call Fox about calling Arizona. When they went down to take the stage, I remember specifically there was still kind of a debate on what he should say when he took the stage. And it was kind of decided he should say, we'll see what happens, which obviously He did not say that when he took the stage. So I think he just refused to give up. I mean, it's Donald Trump, right? And he will never admit to being wrong or to losing anything. And now he's doubling and tripling down because he's got so many people supporting that theory. I think one thing he's gotten really good at, or he did get really good at as president, is taking advantage of the base and this group of people who are, you know, so desperate for a voice, which I understand and support. But I think they're being taken advantage of now. And I think he knows they'll do whatever he says.
Did you get taken advantage of by him? You know, it was interesting to me that you sort of admit that you got into that White House. Perhaps you wouldn't have gotten there with another campaign. Did he take advantage of you?
I think I don't want to pin that on him. I definitely got very excited to be around this glamorous world of the Trumps. And certainly when I got into the White House, you do get heady with power. I don't know that he took advantage of me in that regard. I think that was my own weakness there. I wish I would have been a bit stronger.
You know, I've heard from several former Trump staffers, some of whom who share your concerns about him, but say that every decision you made was always in the best interest of yourself, whether it was to stick in order to get a good job in the White House or now to do a tell-all when you need to make money. What do you say to that criticism?
Well, two things. If there are people who are sharing my same concerns, I wish they would speak up, because right now, looking back, I don't think is what's as important in terms of personalities and who did what, why. But I would disagree with that wholeheartedly. When I was in the White House, I lost a lot of friends and a lot of family, and I think I lost a little bit of my own moral compass. And now leaving, you know, yes, I got paid to write a book, but you cannot put a price tag on what is happening to me now. The right is mad at me. The left is mad at me. My family is getting threats. I'm being smeared. I'm being sued. I knew all of that would happen. So when I wrote this book, I knew this was going to be a very, very tough battle. So yes, I got paid, but there is no price tag for what's going on. I just find it to be very, very important for the country looking forward.
You said one of the reasons you're speaking out is you hope he doesn't run in 2024. If he does, do you plan to actively work against him?
If I'm asked to, if there's anybody who wants me to speak out or talk, yes, I will. I think that, you know, I had a very unique perspective in that I worked for the former president, I worked for Mrs. Trump, and I worked for both of them at the same time. I know the way they think. I know the way they try to distract. And if there's any way I can be helpful to help decipher some of those movements and what's really going on, I would do that, yes.
Do you think if he's elected again, he'll destroy the democracy?
I think it will be a very terrifying time. I think he's on a revenge tour right now, right, with the people who voted to impeach him. I think it will be nothing but revenge, retribution, and how he can benefit himself. There will be pardons happening. I think there will be very draconian policies that go way too far. So I believe if he is reelected again, it will be a really, really scary time.
Stephanie Grisham, the one-time press secretary for former President Donald Trump and former Chief of Staff of the former First Lady. Thank you for coming on and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Stephanie Grisham, interviewed by Chuck Todd, and she was press secretary for a day. She was secretary to both Trump, so she saw what was going on. And I found her to be very credible. I mean, I've watched this tape just to cut it down and everything many times. And one thing, I watched it silently, and I could kind of tell that she was being sincere. Anyway, what I'm ranting about is I think she's worthy of some respect, and I like her style. Unlike what we're about to see next, which is another strong woman. And let's move on to the next one, Amos, because that's my theme today: strong women.
Oh, God.
Yes, Amos.
Before you do, though, I'm curious. I don't remember, how did the press deal with Scaramucci when he turned critical of Trump in the aftermath of his service? Was there a similar critique, or wasn't there? I sincerely don't remember.
I don't know. I really don't. One thing I feel about what Stephanie Grisham did here, or Grisham rather, is, she didn't have to do what she was doing. She could have been she could have stayed to be she could be a Trumper right now, and she's not. She's saying her truth.
She would probably sell just as many books as touting the Trump line, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing I didn't like her having to explain why she's writing a book. I mean, if you write a book, actually, it's kind of hard to do. You got to concentrate and put it down, pick it back up. And personally, anybody who writes a good book's got my respect. Because how many good books have you written lately, Amos? I haven't written any. I mean, So, there are people who perhaps want to cut her down because she used to be a Republican working for Trump. I don't know. I don't know who she is. I haven't met her. I just see her past as being neutral, and I'm paying attention to what she's saying now. And it seems very sincere. I like her style. And, I think she's showing, I started this out talking about human nature and this chapter on, balancing your female and male sides. And I think she's got a good balance, and to even do her job, to be press secretary for a day, I couldn't do it. That's way above my pay grade. But speaking of pay grade, I would not say this woman is above my pay grade. So yeah, this is a very short one.
The empty green.
I'm not seeing it there. What's going on?
Joe Biden abandoned Americans in Afghanistan,
Okay.
got 13 of our best soldiers killed, gave a kill list of Americans to the Taliban, and armed an Islamic terrorist nation with $83 billion in weapons like this one. Biden should be impeached. Now I'm doing a gun giveaway of my own, but for Americans only. I want you to win this .50 caliber rifle that Democrats will ban if they keep the House next year. While Joe Biden broke America's pledge to never leave a man behind, Nancy Pelosi is sneaking the Green New Deal into the $3.5 trillion budget. And in 2022, I'm going to blow away the Democrats' socialist agenda.
And look at the sign on the side of that car.
Go to the website below and sign up to win my .50 caliber gun before Joe Biden bans it.
This is your brain on drugs, folks. And nothing in this ad makes any sense.
It is meant to make not any sense. It's perfect for our audience. And well, for me, it is absolutely because of, as I said, we are freshly under the impression of our own election circle here, and we also had campaign clips here in Germany which looked a little bit different than this, for example. It is mind-blowing, and I only wished that the moment
Literally.
she shot that gun, that the gun would have hit back right into her face, and broke her nose, and something like this, because I cannot stand that woman. I hate her. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
But the ad's appealing to somebody.
Yeah,
And-
of course. Yeah, of course.
And
it
that's
is.
the thing,
Yeah.
I mean, oh, she's a horrible person, and but other people, not everybody feels that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I read an article a couple of days ago, and the writer says that he feels that we are living now in a time of constant outrage. That we are looking for a thing we can get angry about. And because this gives us the feeling we are on the right side. And I think this is. in these times, this is coming out more and more, and it is. We talked about this many times. It is not about facts anymore. It is about ideology. It is about feeling. It is about fear. And I think fear is a very important aspect in this. It is a fear of losing control. We can see what's going on with the Republicans, or with they're becoming more and more right wing. Yeah, of course, yeah, because the population is changing there, and the status quo is also changing, and so there is no argument silly enough, if it fits to your own political identity, and that's it. This is why such campaign clips, if you want to call it like that, approach people. They find themselves in there because they see a white woman, shooting a gun, and she is standing for all the white for the white good reasons, in quotation marks, and all other things are faded out.
And notice that how commercial this ad is. It's beyond like a political campaign ad. It's almost like a product, like a company ad or something, with a drawing. You're gonna win something if you put your
Where
name
I send my money.
Yeah, but honestly, it doesn't look like a good company if you want to take this it looks cheap. If you see there, if she's when she's lying there on the truck, shooting it, a professional company would have done this with many more cuts, and presented it more fresh. It is done poorly. It doesn't make it better.
Yeah, but the tone of it is completely commercial. That's what I'm pointing at.
Yeah,
it's unashameful.
Yeah. At least they're trying to.
Well, it shows the other side. Yeah, Marcus, what you're saying, I started out, my introduction to this segment, with the women by that book, and in that book, the author talks about, well, one thing he says, humans are we're kind of restless, and we're always looking. The grass seems to always be greener, kind of thing. But we're, in terms of generations, we're living. It just, we can be looking at different times in history, and we're not at a good time. We're at a time that's kind of like pre-revolutionary, at a time where things are going to be happening, because we know things can't go on the way they are. And so a lot of people are just like grasping at straws, trying to make sense of the world, any way they can. And that's causing a lot of people to kind of lose their minds and go after like crazy stuff, like, Marjorie Green there.
Yeah. As I said in the green room to you, I would like to compare it with a sound. You cannot exactly hear. It is a little bit, what dogs can hear this in the frequency. But everyone feels that something is really going wrong. We have a problem to define what our democracies stand for. Especially if you look at what happened with the end of the Afghanistan project, if you want. So it was shameful. If you look at what the efforts against the climate change, it is shameful. If you look at how we are dealing with the coronavirus, it is shameful. And everybody feels it. If people cannot put it into sentences, right? But I think everyone feels it, and everyone knows that the times are changing, and they're drastically changing, and they are not changing to good times. What we are going to see is, I think, would be comparable to what we have seen in the I think it was the 3rd or the 4th century, in Europe, when everything broke down, and people start to move, and peoples, not only people, and everyone, or millions were homeless, and everything was breaking down, and I think in the worst case, and I think this is not taken too far away, we will exactly see this.
Well, things are breaking down now.
Along the rising oceans will cause so much people to move away there, and where are they going? If you look at Europe, Europe is a fortress right now. You cannot go in there, you cannot come in there. We prefer, we rather let the people drown in the sea, than taking them in. And I'm wondering what happens, for example, it is pretty easy. What could happen in this scenario? You got a big drought, in Europe, and the country cannot feed their people anymore. So if people lose trust in their government, then the government is obsolete, and then they will try to find another groups they can join to take care that they got fed, right? That they got fed. And it is, as I said, democracy, and how we define democracy, or how we defined it, is a very fragile plant, if you want. So it needs its water every day, and this is what we are forgetting here also.
Yeah, same thing's happening here. With we got second and third generations Americans, even for, saying that other people are illegal, like we've got 15, 20 million people, people that are here illegally. And it's terrible.
Yeah.
Jabberwocky.
And as I may add one thing, a couple of years I read a book. It was written by Konrad Lorenz, who was a scientist of behavior, and he said that the so-called evil, is a part of us. It's a very important part of us, and this is how he explains, we are functioning the way we are functioning.
Oh, well, the Human Nature book made a very clear point on that. Is the more we pretend that's not there, it's the stronger it gets.
Yes.
And so you got to know who you are, get in touch with and be honest with yourself, and if you had some bad thoughts, admit them to yourself and work on them, but yeah, if the more you push down the evil side, the stronger it gets. Yeah. So Jabberwocky. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes, we read articles, and I decided I'd read an article, and the author of this article is me. I wrote this Friday, and I'm going to say before I read it that if I offend anyone, I'm sorry. If you honestly believe, that the vax is bad, through honest belief, I got no problem with you. But I do not think all people do, and so I'm going to read Jabberwocky, which I wrote Friday now. And here we go. It has taken me this long to figure it out. Some people are stupid. That muddies the water. It made the real bottom feeders hard to see. There's a certain kind of American who feels entitled, the kind of American who took over the Capitol building in Washington last January. And these Americans want Trump back. Why? Cutting taxes on the rich does not help most of us. Freedom is a lame excuse and not the explanation. The explanation is that, 1, no anti-vaxxer believes COVID will seriously harm them. 2, not getting vaxxed shows you don't respect the election of Joe Biden. Donald Trump did not actually win the presidential election like Al Gore did. Trump lost multiple key states. That is the first denial of reality a Trumper makes. Reality denied, the brain doubles down to prevent a cognitive leak. This is where the pretense that the vaccine is dangerous grows and is nurtured. That first denial sets things moving. The flu vaccine, the mumps vaccine, hepatitis, smallpox, measles, rabies, if you get bit, pneumococcal. The list is long and I could go on. There are 24 common vaccines in America, but it seems only the COVID is dangerous. Why? Dogs are whistling is why. Racist dogs have been signaling each other. Don't get the vax. Reacting to the George Floyd riots a year ago, Racist pigs came together in January. Personally, I thought a deranged individual committed the George Floyd murder. A deranged asshole enabled by men who will have a hard time living with their weakness for the rest of their damn lives. But hey, that's just me. America has unprofessional racist cops. As far as I'm concerned, you can take the racist cops behind the building and do what you want with them. But please, I don't want to hear screams. I'm not sadistic, but I have seen enough of the ugly face of racism to know what it can do. Cosmic justice it would be. But as things are, their white privilege should be, hopefully will be, to be merely fired, along with the rest of the unprofessional police in America. I hope Seattle holds firm and sets the example. The city of Seattle is ready to fire 403 officers if the officers do not take the jab by October 18th. 403 officers in fear of heavy metals in the vax, ready to drop you dead, or some such bullshit. This is a bit much, so what gives? Seattle had more officers at the Capitol riot than any police force in the nation. Seattle has racist pigs on the police force. They are dog signaling to each other, establishing themselves as a political force. This is what is up. There is no issue of freedom involved. The officers are only refusing orders, mandating a vaccine tested and now shown to be safe by distribution of more than 1 billion doses is reasonable. A simple order issued for the public good. This is hardly worth any debate. We really do have better things to do. Ensuring the safety of people as they go about their daily lives. That is what police officers should do. Taking the jab is part of that mission, ensuring public safety. Policing is a responsible and professional job if it is done right. When the mission is to ensure the safety and freedom of citizens, done right, it is a job worthy of respect. Things in Seattle will soon get interesting. I will be disappointed if there are no firings. This is a clear example of unprofessional police identifying themselves. The opportunity should not be wasted. Fire the racist pigs. But the idea that Seattle is ready to fire this many officers at once is ridiculous. Pay in a hostile city council, which has drunk deep from the defund the police poison cup, makes for a very bad working environment. The force is already short-staffed. Who would want to be an officer in Seattle? Other cities pay more. Some city councils think building a professional police force is part of their job. Not so in Seattle. Officers know this and have been quitting. Many people in Seattle think having no police force is a good idea. These people have lost their minds. In America, the unifying force behind anti-vax is racism. Australia, with spectacular anti-vax riots, also rants about freedoms, but I think they have different reasons. Brothers of a common mother, sort of. Aussies are people who suffered through public educations. They know better than to think that COVID vaccine is actually dangerous, just like Americans do. In this way, we are the same. Some Aussies were even born in hospitals under conditions of modern medicine where they were vaxxed. I'm not Australian. I don't know what specific bitches they have down under, but the basic phenomena is the same. People are trying to build a political force. Isolation is the stimulus. Isolated by draconian rules, Aussies know they are being manipulated. Anti-vax is their way to strike back, and they don't have many options. Racism is not unknown down under, but if America points that finger, 3 other fingers point right back. To some people, what I write today may seem perhaps extreme. I don't give a fuck. Previous generations fought hard for civil rights. Now I see half the people in America don't seem to know what civil rights are. They have forgotten how fucked up things were, and not so long ago. The oppressed, ignored, and in America, too many people are fine with it. I see racism as a unifying force behind the populist Trump Joe Biden is not real following. A racist following, dog whistling to each other using anti-vax bullshit. In Seattle, people who clearly have no ability to be professional police capable of serving the public good have clearly identified themselves. I hope Seattle does the right thing. As hard as it is, fire them. And that's my article. So I wrote that, and I was going to make some slides because there's some local news articles and stuff that I could post and whine about all this. But, I just, I felt so strongly about this. I just wrote this, and I thought it'd be better if I just read it. And now we can talk about it. One thing I will say, like I said before, if you are if you're not racist and you authentically believe that vaccines are bad, I can respect that. However, what I think is that number is very small. And I think that the actual fact of the matter is, okay, what happened to me is I figured out one person in particular who writes on the internet actually does not believe that vaccines are dangerous at all. And I kind of caught him, I kind of figured him out. And then I realized he's not the only one. There are a whole bunch of people like this. And so you've got a minority of people who, for whatever reason, say, I'll call these legitimate people. They believe that, the vax is dangerous or whatever. And, maybe, it's got chips in it or whatever. I don't really care. Most of us don't feel that way. But this small minority of people seem to have, exaggerated their following. Like they're all over the news, and we think there are more of them than there actually are. But within that, those are the authentic people. The unauthentic people, I really have figured out, they're posing. They don't believe, the first thing, if they get a toothache, they're going to go to the dentist. If they get a pain in their belly, they're going to go see a doctor. They're going to have no qualms about taking whatever medications or treatments, modern medicine can give them. But, oh, geez, it comes to a vax, heavy metals, untested this, on and on and on. And I'm calling the bullshit. No, what you're actually doing is you're thinking, number one, is that it's not really going to hurt you. And since it's not going to really hurt you, you can play this game with and it's basically people coming together, and they're using this to dog whistle.
Yeah,
which is a very specific term, Yeah, go ahead, Amos.
Well, Julie says what sane person thinks that forced experimental jabs are ever okay, but they're not experimental. Neither are they experimental, nor are they forced. They're forced in particular jobs if you want to keep the jobs. But it's not experimental. It's been tested. We've gone through a period of time of testing. It's based on other technologies that have been tested. Even mRNA vaccines are not new. They're just like new in the sense that they're deployed
they're
in
20
such.
years old.
Yeah. But they haven't been deployed at such a level before. But there's another study in Israel, another one that came out that showed that people who got vaccinated, people who got the natural immunity from getting COVID, had twice the likelihood of getting reinfected. So it was thought previously that natural infection would be more robust than the vaccine. It turns out that it may be for a short period of time, but it wanes faster than the vaccine. So that's another thing to keep in mind. As a matter of fact.
Yeah, well, that's just more sense in an issue that has been totally politicized. So that's a true fact which we can promptly ignore if we don't like it.
Yeah.
I think we have to separate between those people who really think an injection, a jab could harm them, who are afraid of it, and on the other hand, we also gotta see those who are doing this as a part of their lifestyle, because as I said before, it's part of their identification. They are using this as a weapon. And I think in this case, I don't agree. I think those people who are afraid of it, they should be taken seriously. But on the other hand, we should not try to fall for the narrative of those who are denying it because of their identity, their political points of view, etc. And I see this is going on a lot, because we are seeing this here in Germany. Until the beginning of October, you could get the free tests. Everywhere you were going, if you would like to enter a shop, etc., you got to do a test, and it was free to do. And it cost nothing. This changed, because a good part of the German people are vaccinated right now. And of course, it is paid by taxpayers' money, the free tests. So they are not free in the end. And the question was raised, in how far is it fair, for those who are denying a vaccination because of political standpoints, etc. Why should we pay for this? So it was decided that the vaccination, the testing is not free anymore, and those who are denying the tests and say, no, we don't want it, but it is enough if I get tested every time, they have to pay for it, and you could see suddenly, that the numbers were increasing from those people, who did not want to get vaccinated in the first place, suddenly it was possible, because it was not so easy anymore, to get the testing, it costs money now, and and this is you can see in how far the fears are reaching. Then you know exactly it has to do with another reasons why those people refuse to do this, and suddenly they did.
Yeah. And Jeffrey, you're right about the fact that polio didn't go away until they started the vaccines, and that is true. And look at where we are now with polio; it's barely showing up anywhere. So it's clearly should be part of the toolbox. And Jilly, regardless of what it is that the solution is, they're going to make profit. That Merck is going to make huge profits on the medication that they're developing, that they claim is 50% stopping you from getting worse. It's like, if not the vaccine, then something else. It's not like that's the only way for corporate to make money.
We don't have to honestly, we don't have to discuss, in how far the pharma industry is helpful or not. I think we saw this many times, especially when we are looking at America, the prescription prices there. You can ask everyone here in Europe, what they have to pay for certain drugs, and if they would hear what you guys over there have to pay for it, they would not believe it, and of course it is about profit. And we have seen this also here from Germany, when Angela Merkel denied, that in Africa or in other poor countries, they should get the rights to reproduce it and they said, no, we will take care that you get the deliveries. Of course it is about money, and that's the fucking system we are living in, and that's the problem. But this doesn't make the vaccination itself dangerous in the first place, I think. And for me, the most striking argument is, if you look at those people who have to deal with this problem every day, if you look at the nurses, if you look at the doctors in the hospitals, and everyone has a clear message. They say we have cases of COVID, from those people who were vaccinated, but in comparison to those who were not vaccinated at all, it is striking. They clearly say, that if you don't get vaccinated, you definitely will get the virus. There's no chance to escape it in the long run. So better be protected, because it can help. It can help to save your life. And the thing is, we saw when the highest point in the of the wave was reaching. We saw what work and what a job the people in the hospitals did. And we should also take care of them, and because they did an excellent service in this time, for being underpaid, by the way. I don't know how the situation in America is, but in Germany they are heavily underpaid.
Yep.
Well, Marcus, I agree with you. What I wrote is kind of one-sided. Yeah. In that it does leave out sincere people who say, but my point in doing all this is to bring out that there are multiple people involved here, some of whom are actually dishonest, and we don't want to admit it. And these people, there's a whole, so we can rant on and on about the science and the facts. And basically these people already agree with us, so they're just lying, and they are saying otherwise because it's in their political interest to do so. Yeah. Yeah. And they think it's a small thing, and they think they won't get hurt. And I just wanted to bring that out. And I do honestly, feel this way about the police are a special case. They are actually public servants. We are their boss. And if the governor of the state says, get vaccinated, and you're a police officer, you really don't have a choice. You follow orders. That's your job, and if you want to quit, go ahead. I'm sure somebody else can do it probably better than you can.
Yeah.
And just to respond to something that Jaylee says, the medication that you mentioned, the deworming medication is unfortunately has not been proven to be as effective in the sense. It may have some effects, but it's not getting to that level. So until we find something that does, or maybe a combination of things, that's a viable option to go with a newer medication. But again, medication is not a vaccine, and we've talked about it before. It doesn't prevent the disease from keeping in the population and developing further strains and so forth. So it's not in place of a vaccine. It may be helpful or helpful in terms of coming up with a strategy,
cases, but not socially.
Right, or even socially, but strategizing in a way to kind of parse through the problem, having certain people vaccinated and certain people closely monitored and immediately treated if they do get something. It's a matter of discussion, but certainly it's not we're not suggesting that vaccines are off the table or should be off the table in any way. So
yeah. And I'm aware that there are big problems about it. If you look, for example, at Singapore, who has a very high rate of vaccinated people there, it seems to break out again, and we will have to deal with this for quite a longer time than we thought.
Right. All right. Let's move to our next topic. Freedom to Vote Bill. It's coming up. So what is the Freedom to Vote Bill? Well, the Freedom to Vote Bill turns out is the Senate reincarnation of the People's Act. It's basically H.R. 1 transferred to the Senate. And it contains a lot of good things. Let's go through what it does contain. It's gotten some things modified from the original. They scaled it down a little bit, but I think there's some important features of it. So the first one is make election day a holiday. So you would get a holiday to go and vote. expand voting access through automatic voter registration. That is something that Bernie Sanders has proposed previously and advocated, and it means that everybody, when they're born or when they become citizen, automatically get voter registration, so they don't have to jump through hoops in order to get that, which makes a lot of sense. Make dark money transparent. Basically through some laws that require clarity on this and transparency.
I mean, dark money in campaigns, or what do you mean?
In campaigns, yeah.
In campaigns, okay.
Correct. They also have a provision to require voting machines to be made in the U.S., and that is to kind of squelch that argument that conservatives may have to kind of like cast doubt at elections just because something is manufactured by a company that has international roots. And the gerrymandering, extremely important, and that is basically making the zoning based on a neutral criteria, so that it can't be engineered the way Republicans have been engineering, and also some of it Democrats, but the Republicans just seem to be better at it, so that would end that. There's a 15-day of early voting requirement. So basically, you can vote 15 days before the elections nationwide, regardless of the state. Block state anti-voter laws, and that is extremely important because the current laws that have been passed in various states allow the states to generally disregard the popular vote if they claim that it's questionable, and then appoint a representative or a delegate on their own. So basically, they could nullify the entire, if the vote doesn't go their way, they could nullify the popular vote in their state and send a delegate that would vote for the other candidate. What else is in the bill? National ID standard with reasonable alternatives like utility bills or bank statements. So basically, that is kind of like calling the Republicans' bluff. So basically, you'd have to have ID, but you'd be it would be flexible as to what was allowable, so that you can't use that as a criteria to try as a means to try and whittle down the electorate, or make it more difficult, create hurdles and challenges in the way of providing the ID, which has been the practice in recent years. There's also a national standard of vote by mail, which we've seen Republicans try to kind of demolish vote by mail, and this would reinstate it as a viable means of election that's protected federally. Former prison inmates would have their voting rights restored. And that's again something that Bernie Sanders has advocated. There'd be a same-day registration for voting, which is important if you find yourself unregistered for whatever reason. Somebody purged your name off the ballots, of the registry, and you want to reinstate it. You could do that the same day. And prevention of unlawful voter purges. And that's another thing that if there's some state doesn't like the vote results, they, at the moment, as unbelievable as it is, they can decide to purge the voters of certain areas, certain counties and districts, and that would protect those. And there's also other aspects of it that pertain to campaign finance, and the most important one for us is the small donor campaign finance matching for Congress. It's already implemented for president and in state elections, and it would be a 6-to-1 matching public fund. The fund would not come from taxes. It would be from fees that are levied on corporations, fees like penalties and so forth in case of some malpractice or whatever, so that wouldn't come at the cost of the taxpayer. But nevertheless, people with donations of up to $200 would be able to would be matched 6-to-1 by this public fund. Extremely important for grassroots representatives, and this is really the key to changing the political system, because as long as you have advantage for people who are running with a corporate backing, that have an advantage in that manner, you're going to have a problem. The political system will continue to belong to the corporations and rich people, and this is extremely important. I'm happy to see that they kept it from the HR one. To me, that perhaps was the most significant one. But let's go back a little bit to the aspect of what we spoke about earlier with regards to Trump getting back in power and winning the next elections. Personally, I'm more afraid of DeSantis and the draconian stuff that he's pushed so far, including the recent education requirement that everybody put the topics be covered from both sides. So even their representative in the education board said that if you're covering the Holocaust, you should provide the point of view of the opposition to that, which is absurd.
Yeah. Well, I brought that thing about with Stephanie Grisham introducing that Trump may run again, and she's all worried about it. And, all that may be true, but, part of the whole thing is I'm not worried so much about Trump because he's getting older. But see, Trump is, going with the flow, but he's not really making the flow. And if not Trump, it's going to be somebody else. It's going to be a DeSantis. It's
Definitely.
And the undercurrent that there is actually an organized or quasi-organized thing under the surface that's feeding the Trump, feeding this. This is very. I'm not liking it. It's bad news.
Exactly. That's my point. That I even if it's not Trump, I'm very concerned of the fact that there are tools now that allow the Republican Party to kind of nullify results and just push their own unelected representative, which is completely anti-democratic. And at this point, I really can't see anybody on the Republican Party, any sane person in the Republican Party, gaining the leadership of the party. It's either going to be Trump or it's going to be DeSantis, in my opinion. And that's very disturbing because there's no alternative to a Democratic president at the moment, which is not exciting necessarily, but that is the situation, unless we want to lose democracy.
Anywhere.
But
no strong leaders.
Well, strong leader is another thing. That strong is not necessarily the word that I would put in there, but it's very alarming that we're at that stage, at that position. So we've got
I want to read what Vegematic wrote here. He says about your voting thing. He says, all good, but it will never get passed.
This is
You know,
exactly what was I thinking. I think who is going to bring in this bill, and who is going to vote present for it?
Right. Well, that's the problem. We have two Democrats that are completely sabotaging every single thing that the Democratic Party is trying to do, and we know who we spoke with. One of them is flipping the
Joe
birds.
Manchin. You forgot Joe Manchin, I guess.
Joe Manchin and Cinema. That's what I'm talking
I
about.
thought you were talking about AOC and Cinema.
No. But it's that's the bird flipping reference. They would have to be on board, and in addition to that, 10 Republicans would have to be on board. It's conceivable that in some situation, because of the some of the aspects of the bill that secure voting on the one hand, they may get some Republicans. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it is extremely important that we pass such a bill, because in the next election, all bets are off.
No chance in hell. Sorry, I can only say it so drastically. There is no chance in hell. Who should bring this through? Where are the? I don't have the fantasy to see all the votes for this bill. Sorry, guys.
Well, like I said, there are certain aspects of the bill that are answering Republican demands.
The Republicans are gerrymandering their districts like crazy. You know, even more than before. What I read. You know, do you really think that the Republicans would cut their arms off? No way. No way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I hate to be a Debbie Downer about this whole thing too, but you know, see, even if it does get passed, then it will get unpassed. You know, the Republicans are very good at going after these things and continually chipping away. And so whatever gains are made, what happens frequently is somebody, we did great, guys. We got it in the bag, and then they walk away, and the Republicans, they come right back and tear it all down.
I would so wish that all those points on the list on the Freedom to Vote bill would become reality. But, well, as I said, I don't have the fantasy. We got betrayed in so many ways, you know, with even for lesser things, you know, and. They want neither the Democrats nor the Republicans. No way.
But Marcus,
this is devil's work for them.
Marcus, this is a shopping list. You go into the store, the shopping list. They may not have cucumbers, but you're gonna get maybe your tomatoes and some burgers or whatever you need to fix a dinner. So there are elements in here that we cannot forgo, that we cannot afford not to pass, and those are ones that are going to play a major role in the next election and how democratic it will be. So that's all I'll say.
You can't shop with bare shelves. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We have a bunch of politicians that are going to be talking behind closed doors. And we'll see what happens.
That warms my heart.
Yeah.
Well, that's what democracy is about. So
yes.
Whether you like it or not, I mean, I would like to pass the bill just straight on, just like it's written. I would have liked to pass the HR 1 as it was written. But I recognize with that there are certain things that need to happen before the next election, regardless, and that is something we have to keep our eyes on.
Then I can guarantee you they will take those things out and come up with a different decision, and it will be so watered down to in the end it would be unrecognizable, you know. And this is, as I said, you know, I really would want all this to happen. You know, each and every point is important. You know, but guys, what did we see the past years?
No, there's no doubt that that compromise is painful.
Yeah. The good and the worse and the evil. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm cynical. What because we talked about it a little bit in the green room before the show. That I personally feel abandoned. What progressivism is a complete failure. If the label is shit now. It was ruined. And I don't see anyone, I don't see anyone who is trustworthy, or who is trustworthy, over the point, where it comes that they are in office. Once they get in contact with the establishment, with Washington D.C., everything it is like a switch. Everything turns around 180 degrees, and this makes me desperate and cynical. And this is why I was laughing away the bill, though I know it is important. Amos, don't get me wrong. But as I said, well, it is like it is.
Well, I don't know if we have the votes.
It doesn't bake the cake.
Yeah, but I don't know if we have the votes to pass the bill as is. But in some form or other, the major parts of it needs to happen, even if we have to continue struggling. But we can't afford to toss this over one or another items in there. So it's definitely important. It's too important to forego this bill.
All right. Yeah, next topic is the German elections, though they are already 3 weeks ago. A lot of things happened here, and you can see Angela Merkel, the female leader of the free world for many, many years. Yeah, she is going to leave now. And let's have a look at what happened 3 weeks ago. Let's have a look at the candidates first. Give us the first slide, please. Yeah. Okay. These are the leading figures in our little German politics story. You can see on the left side there is Olaf Scholz. Olaf Scholz is the leader of the he's the candidate of the Social Democratic Party. If you want to compare it with your Democratic Party, do it. But there are so many things which are not likely. But to give you an impression. On the other hand, you got Helmut Laschet. He's a conservative party, comparable or not comparable with the Republicans, and guys in America, you only know the two big parties, and over the decades in Germany in the past, it was only the big parties, the Social Dems and the Conservatives. They were changing in government, the Conservatives, they were more often in government than the Social Democrats. It was maximum 3 parties we had there, the FDP, the Free Democratic Party, the market liberals, where the third party, which came up, I think it was in the late 60s, and they were the majority. They have to bring the majority to the party who is going to govern. So over the years we got more and more parties in it, and this time we saw this already over the years. The big parties, the Social Dems and the Conservative Party, the CDU, got smaller and smaller. They lost their supporter base more and more, and as you can see, they're stuck only with 24 and 25%, and that's all. And what was formerly a big so-called party of the people, it shrunk down, and Under this impression, if you can see in the first bar, the Union, the Conservative Party, they lost nearly 9% of their votes, which is a complete disaster for them. They are the party of Angela Merkel. Angela Merkel was leading the country for 16 years with the participation of the Conservative Party. And well, it was a complete disaster for them, and not much better, as you can see there, with 25.7% is the Social Democratic Party here in Germany. But in contrary, they lost a little bit more. They won a little more than 5%, and they were celebrating like crazy. We are the true winners of the election, etc. But if you look, nearly 75% didn't even vote for them, if you see the general results. Okay, so we got the situation there. We got for 12 years the situation that the Conservative Party and the Social Democratic Party built a coalition and reigned together here in Germany. And well, it was already complicated 4 years ago when there was no agreement for another government, that they came together again, and they built the so-called big coalition. And everyone here in Germany over the years became so tired of the big coalition. It was laming us here in Germany. Politically, it was laming us, and it was more and more people got angry on the government, and this led also, as we saw before, to the drop of voters for the Social Democrats. It was a couple of years earlier than for the Conservative Party right now, but it doesn't change the fact the former big parties are not that big anymore. So in this scenario, you will find the Green Party on the one side, and on the other side you find the market radicals, as I would like to describe them, the trickle-down liberals from the FDP, and both sides decided, we don't want anymore to be involved in a big party system. We would like to do our own thing, and the unthinkable happened. The market radicals, the liberals, and the Green Party, after the election night, came together, and they agreed to have talks between the Greens and the liberals only, leaving out the big parties. And the funny thing is, the wag the dog scenario is that they came up with a plan. They got two meetings, and after the two meetings, they had to decide which one of the big parties they would choose to govern with them. It was not like before, that the big party gave the command. It is now the other way around, that the small parties united and now are choosing who the chancellor is going to be. Either would it be Helmut Laschet or Olaf Scholz. I think this is quite interesting for you guys in America. What you can do when you have more than two parties, it is sometimes very surprising, because as we know, normally the Green Party and the market liberals, the capitalist party, if you want so, are opposing forces. I am of the opinion that you cannot do anything strategically against the climate catastrophe with capitalism, within the capitalistic system, and now both parties are trying to build bridges and to find a solution to bring their plans together, and we will see where it leads. They met lately yesterday night, and came up with a 12 pages paper what they would like to do, and there is a lot of things going to happen. Starting with climate, with minimum wages, etc. Nobody knows yet how they would like to finance that, but that's a different story, of course. Most importantly is that it looks like that we will have a so-called ample coalition in the future. This means regarding the colors of the parties, you have the red color for the socialists, green for the Greens, of course, and the yellow party for the liberals.
And Markus, who are the people in the picture?
Okay, in the picture, this picture is one of the reasons why the conservatives performed so badly. You remember in spring, in April, we had our climate change event here. We had heavy rains, and the water was rising drastically at some places here. You saw the footage here. We presented them. There was also Laschet in, because every politician has to be in the area of crisis and to present himself, and this is how he presented himself, with not being aware that he was watched, and this was while our federal president gave a speech, and he made some jokes, and they were heavily laughing, and this was not digested too well by the voters. There were a lot of other mistakes Laschet did. I remember he was once asked by a reporter who was close to in reporting, he was close to the Conservative Party, who was asking him a simple question. He was asking Mr. Laschet, please tell us what are the most important things you would like to address once you're a chancellor. And he said, the digitalization, internet stuff, and so is one big problem, and the other thing is downsizing bureaucracy in Germany. And she was asking at a certain point, and she was running next to her for I think 30 seconds, and he didn't had another topic. He was completely clueless, and there were many other stories like this we were seeing here, and he became a laughing stock, and this was clear that the Conservative Party with this candidate would not come far, and and the election results showed it, with a minimum advantage, the Social Democratic Party, who were also a laughing stock, the political laughing stock the past years, suddenly rises like phoenix from the ashes, and is now the winner of the election. It cannot be more ridiculous, if you ask me, because the problem is there was no candidate from the big parties, who really stands for anything. Laschet did all the mistakes, and he was not taken to be serious enough for the job. And Olaf Scholz, he's a kind of politician. He's like breath that spoils very slowly. But it is not attractive. He's a very quiet and quiet guy, and he didn't say much also when he was campaigning, but he had one thing which he felt was important for the voters. He copied the quietness, the seriousness of Angela Merkel. And he copied it to a point that the conservatives were raging about him, that he would do this. And he gave the people in the time of the feeling that things are getting real tough in the future, the feeling of there is someone you can feel safe, he knows the direction we have to go, and it was an emotional thing, and and all this, the failures of Laschet and this stoic personality of Scholz brought him the win, and it's quite. I think it's quite interesting for you guys to see smaller parties can try to change things, and you only would need to have more parties in your competition. Only.
And Gene asked if the Social Democrats were similar to a type of communist party.
No, not at all. We got the Left Party. The Left Party is not even them are like a communist party. For this, we got the Marxist-Leninist Party, which is a very small party. In the end, I think we got about 20-25 parties here in Germany you can vote from. I personally, usually for years now, I vote for Die Partei, the party, which is a satire party, because you cannot vote anything else here in Germany without tearing up, and. Well, I was asking myself, should I vote for the Greens this time, but also the Greens are not the Greens anymore. They were when they started in the late 70s. They came from the opposers of the nuclear power stations here in Germany, and they were in parts very militant here. We had wars with police over the nuclear power stations here, and not small ones. It was there were many people involved in it, and of course, over the years, 40 years after they found it, of course, they found their way through establishment, and they are not that edgy anymore as they have been, of course. And they are now considered mostly to be a party for teachers and for the better earning people, who have the money to take care to get biological vegetables on the table and stuff, but they are not considered to be a real small people's party. This is mostly the SPD or the Left Party, but you can forget about the Left Party here in Germany. They are so split up in so many subgroups, you cannot take them seriously. They one example to finish this. They voted against the Afghanistan, that we take people from Afghanistan back to Germany, even the helpers from Afghanistan. They voted against it, or they were present. We know that a present vote means bullshit. And well, you can forget about the Left Party, and the AfD. Fortunately, this is our right-wingers party, our neo-Nazi party, if you want. So they are getting more and more radical now, because they got a big standing in the east of Germany, much bigger than in the west, and they lost slightly, but they did not lose much. They established now, and unfortunately, we have to bear them in our Bundestag.
AfD, Alternative für Deutschland.
Yes, Alternative for Germany, AfD. Yes, Alternative für Deutschland. Yeah, and one thing about the Green Party, there was Schulze before. He said that he was following the German election cycle this year, and he was a fan of Annalena Baerbock. Annalena Baerbock, we saw this in the first slide, was a candidate for the Green Party, and unfortunately, with the disaster spring we had, with the high waters, etc. Everyone was thinking that that the Green Party this time would take over the government, and but unfortunately, she personally did many mistakes. She had an affair with a book she published, which came out that there were parts of it were copied from other writers, and stuff. And she did not present herself as a real candidate, in my opinion. When I saw her on stage, and she was good in her argumentation, but she always had, for my taste, the air of someone in my gymnasium, in my high school, who is the speaker of the pupils, and this has nothing to do with that she's a woman or not. That I'm absolutely a fan of Nina Turner, and I was a fan of AOC and stuff, but it was a kind of air with her, and for my taste, the better candidate would have been the second man of the Green, Robert Habeck. He is more oriented with facts, and he is more sharp in his argumentation. And I guess with him, it would have looked much better for the Green Party, and maybe the Green Party would have won, but that's all speculation. So this is my quick review of the German election. We still don't have a government yet, so they are still in the phases of consolidation, that they are collecting thoughts and ideas and are trying to bring this in one paper on the table. And but I'm pretty optimistic that we will have a social democratic led green and liberal government lately in December at the latest time.
But they have to get another party to go with them, right? That is the point of the slide.
Yes, the only option to go on as a two-party system would be the big coalition, which nobody in Germany wants. You know, the people would go crazy if that happens again. So this option is no option. It would only become an option if both talk. If neither the Greens and the Liberals find together with the Social Democrats nor with conservatives, then the option Social Democrats Conservatives is on the table again. But it is what many people would have liked to be seen would be the second bar there with the Social Democrats, the Green Party, and the Left Party. You know, but the Left Party did not get enough votes, if you want so. Neither did the Green Party, and the Social Democrats were celebrating the small victory. The Kenya option, we call it, would have been the big coalition added with the Green Party, but this doesn't make sense. Who wants to share power with a third party when it's not needed? So this is I don't know why it is in this graphic. It makes no sense at all. Jamaica would be the option. Of the conservatives, they would have liked that the Green Party and the Liberals would have come to them, that they could go on like they did 16 years long. And
unlikely.
But honestly, the interesting thing is when the FDP and the Greens had the separate talks with the conservatives on both occasions, shortly after they were done, the first interna of what was talked about landed in the yellow press, and the Liberals and the Green Party were not enthusiastic about it, and this already disqualified the conservatives, who are in shambles right now.
And you mentioned that here's what we can do with more parties, and you're right about that. Look what they did in Israel. They managed to sidestep Netanyahu and the Likud party, which was the biggest party.
And this is this is the biggest surprise to me. You know, when it happened, you know, that Netanyahu was outed, and I said, how can this work? You know, they were far left side parties together with far right parties. You know, and then we talked about it a couple of days ago, and then I heard nothing about it. There is no noise about it. And I read an article, and the article says they are governing without any noises, and it works. Do you have any more information on
I think the difference between a two-party system and a multi-party system is that in a two-party system, you elect someone and they end up doing what you don't necessarily like. In a multi-party system, they don't do what you necessarily like. So they can't, because they're opposing forces within the coalition. So it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition, but neither of those systems is ideal.
It would be politically, of course, it would be a big difference from what you guys know, because in your system, the winning party gives the lead, says what's going to happen law-wise, etc.
Right.
Here with a multi-party system, you have to compromise. So
Yes.
you have to work together. You have to talk to each other. You cannot stay on your position and say, no, we don't have nothing to talk, because I'm in this position and you are there. You have to get into action.
Right.
Huh. I was going to ask the question whether or not, obviously multi-party is better than two. I wasn't sure when you started talking there. But so I'm going to go a little further, though, along the same lines. What about corruption? Okay, so you've got, you see, with two parties, I heard you just say that multi-parties are better because with two parties, a guy can stick to his guns. And that suggested to me that they can be bought off more easily with just two parties than three.
I can tell you.
But anyway, go ahead.
I can tell you the following thing. There was an examination another YouTuber made for. He's a German. He's called Rezo, and he did a very, very in-deep research with a lot of sources, etc. And he brought this up. He said, you got to keep in mind that the Conservative Party is in government now for 16 years. And I think 96 or 97% of the corruption cases are coming from the Conservative Party. And there were heavy corruption cases during this corona epidemic, when they suddenly find out that politicians, making extra cash, by taking care that certain deals with companies who are producing these masks, are preferred to others, and they were much more expensive, and a big part of the money went directly into the pockets of the mostly conservative politicians. I think there was only one case from the Social Democrats, and many other cases was the conservatives. And this shows something. The longer you stay in power, and this is something like a natural law, the longer you stay in power,
Yes.
you better you build up your departments, your contacts, etc. Every hand washes the other, we say in Germany, So you got you have an apparatus installed which is corrupt in itself. It is going to develop, And this, in my opinion, it would be necessary to do one change here in Germany that we say that we can discuss, if we put one term up to 5 years, but I think after 2 terms, be it 4 or 5 years a term, the candidate should definitely not be able to candidate again. Because you can build some, or maybe let it be 3 terms with 4 years, let it be 12 years. It is difficult, But after 16 years, we had the same thing after Helmut Kohl. He was also nearly 16 years in government. We had the same thing. The corruption was so deep. The longer you are in office, this is why I think. A multi-party system can be helpful. It gives you more choice, to prevent this up to a certain point. It cannot prevent everything, but it doesn't help. Other party, 2 big parties.
Well, the impression you're giving is it does make people more honest. They have to be more accountable.
I'm not so sure that's the case in practice, but it's interesting theory.
Yeah, because we have certain laws. Of course, it is not like in America. It is different here. Everyone who is working in politics in a certain office has to lay open what he is earning, and also what donations concern. They have to tell directly to the Speaker of the Bundestag, when they are getting a donation which is over 10,000 euros. If they do not, and it comes out, the fines are much more drastic than the 10,000 you got before, And every party is very, very carefully to give the right papers to the Bundestag speaker, where these things are checked.
All right.
And I don't want it is not that I want to brag about the German democratic system. It is for my taste it's a weak system. I'm not voting for a satire party for peanuts. I'm quite desperate, but in comparison to what you guys have, it is still gold. And that's a problem
because the corporations can control it less.
That's it. Yeah. That's it, and we have, and another thing is that unions have a big say here in Germany also, in what goes on.
What's a union? I don't know. I'm an American. I don't know what a union is.
Yes, exactly. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our biggest unions are, of course, involved in politics. And they have a very important say in what's going on also.
Yeah. All right, let's move to shortcuts. We have a bunch of really interesting stories, some of them hard to believe. So let's start with the first one. The global carbon emissions seems to have, according to studies, have bounced back into pre-pandemic numbers, and they expect the upcoming year to increase in carbon emissions. So this is just a reminder that nothing has really changed. If we look
I'm going to disagree with it. Okay, first of all, I keep track of this every month, and the last 2 months are slightly lower than where they were last year. So the rate of increase, I believe, has slowed slightly. However, this title pisses me off. Global carbon emissions bounce back to pre-pandemic levels. Here's the problem. Things are only going up. Even if we stopped all emissions tomorrow, we would still have the emissions we already have. So every emission only builds on what we already have. And
all right, you're right. I got it. Yep.
I see a title. I see a title like that, and it bounce back. That means bouncing back. Bouncing means going up and down.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing's going down. Things.
That's only adding. Yeah, I see what you mean.
But in terms of output, it is bouncing up. In terms of how much we're adding to the carbon in the atmosphere. So I don't know, but either way,
crazy things are going on. I mean, China's got issues with coal right now.
Right.
They don't have enough coal because they're having power blackouts because they're not being able to supply enough coal to the power plants. They had I think it has to do with a sudden increase in manufacturing, but there I'm getting into the area of speculation. I'd have to go back to the articles and see if that part's really true.
But this study went between up to December of 2020. So it may, I don't know what the last 2 months have included, but overall that's the situation. And some details of it is that China was the only large economy to increase the emissions in 2020. But rising 0.8% overall, and the US and EU saw emissions fall by about 10% during the pandemic, and it's so basically it's by December everything bounced back to the pandemic level, and they're expecting it to rise up. So COP26, it's gonna be a tough conversation.
Yes, and here we are at the Uphill Media Flash Flood Report. And since we were gone 2 weeks, I did 2 of them. This first one is the Quentin Tarantino edition. Quentin is into feet, and so you'll see why if we play this. It's in Hong Kong, and things really got. This is about a week old, and that one was in Hong Kong.
This video shows what happened on October 8, 2021. Severe flooding due to tropical storm and rainstorms in Hong Kong, China. Torrential downpours prompted the Hong Kong Observatory to upgrade its rainstorm warning at 11 a.m. on Friday to black, the highest level in one that was last issued on June 28. The warning was downgraded to red an hour later, with heavy rain still lashing the city, and was again lowered to amber at 5 p.m. Earlier, with Tropical Storm Lion Rock skirting Hong Kong, the observatory issued a number 3 typhoon signal, which was expected to remain in force for most of the day.
Look at that.
The car owner said that an amber rain warning in force at the time was insufficient for the weather conditions. To be honest, the rain and the wind was so bad this morning the red or black rain warning should have been in place earlier. Due to heavy rain, a building collapsed, in which renovation work was carried out.
The storm is coming. A
homeowner, who declined to be named, said a black rain warning should have been issued earlier to suspend building works before people were on site. The company concerned should have really cancelled the workday for their staff under these conditions, he said. Earlier, the department urged employers across the city to assess whether staff needed to report for work, and to consider making alternative arrangements. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel to keep abreast of the most important changes on the planet.
Okay, so everyone had wet feet there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's play the
And
other.
so now we have another one. Here we go. You notice at the bottom of this one, I'm inflicting the graph on it again, which was my whole point in starting this how many weeks ago when I gambled and decided, hey, things are getting so bad, I can find the flash flood every week. And I did. And again, I present the graph because the point of the graph is, people talking about 1.5 degrees C warming, 2 degrees of sea warming. Well, 2 degrees of warming will be much, much worse than 1.5. See, it's an exponential relationship. The amount of water the air can hold and the amount of actually dissolved gas and water too, that gets affected. But anyway, sticking to the air, the warmer the air gets, the more moisture it can hold, and this just means more violent weather. It's a different kind of rain, in the northern latitudes, far north, you have like a gentle rain that continues for a very long time. Further south you go, it's always been more like, hey, we got some rain. It comes down really hard, then it's sunny again. And now with global warming, see, the entire character of the weather over the whole planet is changing so that we have extreme weather. And this is going to make it very, very hard to grow crops and feed people and keep items on store shelves and all this good stuff. So that is the point of why I do this thing about the flash flood every week.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's frightening. Absolutely frightening. I mean, I saw in April here in Germany what a flood means, and in comparison, what we have to expect. Oh, holy God. Yeah. Yeah.
See, it's happening somewhere on the planet every week now.
Yeah. Yeah, and if it's not the flood, we have more solutions on how to kill ourselves. Let's have a look at the Amazon rainforest. I found this one in the Guardian, and just let me read it. It's about a guy who was murdered. He was an activist a couple of years ago, and he came too close to the people who make profit from it, and this was the article about. But I want to read out what's going on there. Since Mendes' murder, nearly 1 million square kilometers of the Amazon, an area roughly the size of Texas and New Mexico combined, have been destroyed, primarily in Brazil, but also in Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Suriname, Guyana, and French Guyana. That equates to an average of some 200,000 acres every day, or 40 football fields per minute. In Brazil alone, home to the greatest expanse of forest, the rate of loss has increased by more than 30%. The Amazon, historically a great carbon absorber, since trees take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, now releases more carbon than it stores, which adds to, rather helps to reduce, our global climate crisis. Yeah, you got 40 football fields per minute. This is wow, and we also reported about that the rainforest is not able anymore to absorb the carbon, and now is releasing carbon by itself. It is. How can we make this better? How can we make it heal?
Well, the answer, of course, is as the media has shown, as mechanical trees, not.
Well, we have to bring down capitalism and the media that supports it.
Yeah. This is the conclusion I came to. But on the other hand, we got to be aware of what is capitalism based on. It is greed, and greed is one of the bad traits, which is deeply coded inside human nature, I'm afraid.
It appears that way, and so the only way out of it is to work cooperatively and prevent, like the alpha males of the group have to be kept down by the beta male, so that everybody works together, and that gets into the I started out the show, saying I read this book, and the whole point of it is it's about human nature and how does this all relate and how we're going to fix our problems. That's why I read the book, I did that because I'm trying to figure out what the hell we should be doing. Because it's not easy.
And if we're not flooding the land and burning the trees and removing the trees, then we're polluting everything with oil and oil products. And in a recent event hosted by TED, where the Shell company had a representative supposedly talking about the cleaner future, was actually confronted, and let's watch this little clip.
No matter what he says today, remember, Shell has spent millions covering up the warnings from climate scientists, bribing politicians, and even paying soldiers to kill Nigerian activists fighting against them, all whilst rebranding to make it look as though they care and that they have the intention of changing. Disproportionately, in the global south, so many people are already dying due to issues related to the climate crisis, such as pollution, extreme heat, and weather-related disasters. This is not an abstract issue, and you are directly responsible for those deaths.
Lauren, do you
seriously, I'm just getting to my question now. So my question is, on the back of that, It's a yes or no question. In my view, you're sitting here and you're giving us this greenwashing, and I feel if you're able to do that, I should be able to provide the context of the absolute atrocities that Shell has committed over its lifetime. So, if you're going to sit here and say you care about climate action, why are you currently appealing the recent court ruling that Shell must decrease its emissions by 45% by 2030? I seriously do not understand what goes on in your mind to sit there and say, I'm trying to do better, when you're appealing against being legally binded to climate action. So, yeah, my question is a yes or no question. Will you repeal this, if you care? Will you repeal this?
Repeal the appeal, you mean? Or,
yeah.
But, again, you gave some context, which, by the way...
I'm going to take that as a no. So I'm just going to say, I hope that you know that we will never forget what you have done and what Shell has done. I hope you know that as the climate crisis gets more and more deadly, you will be to blame, and I will not be sharing this podium with you anymore. Lauren.
Yeah, quite event there. Of course, the greenwashing is continuing. We're being told that there's this or that technology, and that of course the oil companies are all for a better future. But in effect, they're doing everything opposing it without any shame, and this is allowed to happen. So unless this stops being acceptable, we're gonna be doomed.
And this and what we are seeing here from the corporations, it's not only the greenwashing, the general behavior, not standing absolutely up for to do everything possible to fight the climate catastrophe. It is clearly visible, it is only about the money, and we have to destroy the system. It is
asking these people to do anything is not going to ever make any progress.
No, absolutely not. Do you know this is part of the big money they are getting? The next minute after the show is over, they are going down to their limousines. They are getting driven to their big mansions. And they're saying, "Okay, I did my day work, and that's it." And this is only stunts. This is bullshit.
Asking them to stop is not going to cut it. They have to be told to stop. It has to be, like, okay, Shell, in the next 5 years, your business has to decrease by 40%. So your gross sales will be, lower. And like no business is going to be doing that unless it's in their best interest to do so. And so we as a people, as a new political force, it has to confront the fact that these people are only going to operate in their best interest. And so they're not going to cooperate with us until it's in their best interest to do so. So why do they do what they do? Because they can.
Yes.
Right.
They got the power, they got the money. That's it.
And Jean, the individual that stood up there was one of the presenters, Lauren from Et Stop Campo, and she was calling out on Shell's CEO Ben van der Bruygen. So,
and I don't want to be too drastic here, but if you're looking at this, and if you're looking how unmoved and obviously bored those two guys are, listening to the woman, but not really caring about what she has to say, I can imagine that this at a certain point would lead to something like a green army faction, like terrorists, that we're going to see, anti-climate terrorist attacks, if you want so, that the people feel, talking does lead nowhere, and the water is rising, the icebergs are melting, the droughts are hitting, the forests are burning. So I think there's a possible point where it gets how do you say it, done with force, and
And meanwhile, they're getting away with corruption to unprecedented levels, where they're corrupting our legal system, especially in the U.S. And if in the U.S., you can imagine what it is like in other countries that don't have this system in place, or where money goes much further. But in the U.S., we have the Stephen Donziger case where the corporations have, like ExxonMobil in particular has taken on the entire court system, the legal system, to exact revenge on a attorney that was successful in going after them for atrocities that they have committed. Chevron, correct? Atrocities that they have committed in South America. So, yeah, it's not a good place we're in, and we need to keep fighting this.
Yeah, definitely.
And I shouldn't say Chevron it was. I should say Chevron it is, because that's very much ongoing. And that Stephen Donziger has been covered quite a bit in the last few weeks, and that's a good thing. But yeah, he's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes, yeah, and if this kind of action is successful, that playbook is being written, then we can expect other human rights and social activists, lawyers to be targeted, and less of them to come forward and protect humans.
Yeah, I mean, we brought up Stephen Donziger. I'll just rant for a few seconds. Marcus brought up what's his name? The indigenous person who was murdered. And indigenous person. Hell, there have been many. I mean, what's the? I forgot. Let me think. I think Guatemala is the most dangerous country to be in, where if you're, the chance of being murdered if you're a climate activist is 50 times what the regular murder rate is, or some baloney like that. I mean, people, money and greed is just going strong. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Another piece of unpleasant news is that the organization Undocked Black Network has released information about an up-and-coming lawsuit led by the A&M University Legal School, as well as 6 other organizations that have charged ICE with atrocious behavior towards African migrants who were deported back to Africa. And so this is kind of hard to watch, so I kind of warn you, but here it goes.
"90 black men and women were on board. All were seeking refuge in the U.S. The U.S. routinely deports people in handcuffs, waist chains, and leg irons. This flight was no exception. Many aboard the flight were being deported to Cameroon, where they had fled war and persecution. They had taken life-threatening journeys to request asylum legally. Instead of being welcomed, these black asylum seekers were put in detention for years. Many were beaten, shamed, shot with rubber bullets, pepper sprayed, and forced to sign their own deportation papers. On October 13, 2020, ICE placed the Cameroonian asylum seekers in 5-point restraints to board the flight. The first few to protest their deportation were tackled to the ground and tied up in a device called the wrap. The wrap is intended for use in extreme situations. It is designed to restrain people in a seated position. Instead, the wrap was used against these black migrants, who were already restrained, to lock them into painful stress positions, with one man forced into a full-face hood. This is torture. as the United Nations has made clear, and ICE use these torture devices routinely. Now, 7 migrant rights organizations have filed a civil rights complaint denouncing ICE's use and abuse of the RAP. Black asylum seekers, like all those who seek protection, must not be tortured for exercising their human right and legal right to seek asylum. Everyone deserves to be safe. ICE and DHS must be held accountable.
Yeah. So this is going through the courts. We're gonna see what happens, but it's disturbing, and it's probably not. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody who doesn't think that if these individuals weren't black, the treatment would have been somewhat different.
Definitely not. Definitely it
agree with
would be
that.
different. Yeah, definitely.
Last thing, here's another clip regarding the Freedom to Vote Act, and let's watch.
The freedom to vote is our basic right.
Our opportunity to make our voices heard.
For over 50 years, the Voting Rights Act has helped remove barriers to voting.
It's been signed into law by both Democratic and Republican presidents.
It's time for our leaders to come together again to update the law.
And ensure that all eligible Americans can vote.
Keep our democracy strong.
Call your senators and tell them to unite to support our freedom to vote. We all deserve the right to vote.
We all deserve the right to vote.
Yeah, do it. Call your senator. I'm going to be calling mine, although mine are supporting it, but you get my point.
Vote.
Yeah.
Cartoons.
Yeah. What we were talking about today. More drilling, more spilling, more making a killing, and still more unwilling. And we're stuck with more grilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this one I couldn't quite figure out. I had to look at it for a while. This one coming up.
Yeah, the moderate asses are in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can explain it to me there.
Well, they're not pulling the cart.
Yeah, I threw this one since it related directly to what I was covering.
Yeah.
Consequences.
Yeah.
And cinema.
Yeah.
Why is she behaving the way she's behaving? Well,
the bullshitting things.
Nothing mysterious about money.
Yeah. Yeah. I like this. Come on, man. This is
come on, man and lady.
Yeah.
Build back bitter. That's a bitter pill they'd have to swallow.
Yeah.
And here's the ethical void and
of Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah. I hate Facebook. They destroyed my self-image, my self-esteem, and my mental health, just so they could make money. Yeah, I know how you feel. America divided, misinfo, hate groups thrive.
Yeah, a lot of baloney put out to influence people, and they don't care if it's true.
Welcome to Texas. Come for the business-friendly environment and stay for the endless culture wars.
Wasn't it Texas? Rick DeSantis is Florida, right? Or
yes.
Am I wrong?
But
wasn't it Texas who came up with the great idea, to put the Holocaust under different perspectives, the pro and cons?
I thought that was Florida. I thought.
I think it was Texas, but I'm not sure. I was wondering that when you mentioned it, I thought, DeSantis too.
Or one of the other. They're kind of interchangeable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the pros and cons about how can you get so stupid. It's okay.
All right. I guess we came to the end of
Generations
our
forget
show.
is how you get that stupid.
Yeah. That's stupid that you forgot it. Yeah. All right, guys. The first show after a long break for me. It was absolutely fun. It was great to talk to you guys and to discuss things with you. And thank you for letting me in again after the long time.
Of course.
But now we'll have to figure out how to keep it shorter, since we're at 2.5 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours. 2 hours right now. Yeah,
Oh, that's right. We started late.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, a little bit later. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So
we're not that bad.
So our call to action for all of you, of course, is this week is call your senator, support freedom to vote, share our content, share our shorter clips in your social media. That always helps. We appreciate the love. And what's our outrovert today, Markus?
No, it's introvert, and it's coming from Little Sims, and she's coming from Great Britain. She's living in London, and she is describing her music experimental rap, and it is a little bit based in the grime music rap style, and it also, and this is quite interesting. This is why I chose this. She also gives a lot room for a lot more musical influences. She's very open to different stuff, and this makes it so thrilling to listen to her, in my opinion. She has a new album out lately. I think it was published 2 weeks ago. Sometimes I Might Be Introvert is the title, the album's title. And well, I like her, and this was taken, is a live video. I don't know from where I took it. It was from Tiny Desk or from another source, but I hope you like it. And yeah, she's a great performer, in my opinion. And well, this is why I would like you to check her out and well, enjoy it. And yeah, next week, guys, are we together next week, or is someone camping or stuff?
No, we're together.
We should be.
Then we are together next week. All right.
Okay, Gene,
bye from Germany.
Kendra, everyone, have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Kendra.
And
have a good week,
and
Markus.
give them hell. All right, here we go.
Little Sims, introvert.
There's a war. The kingdom's on fire, the blood of a young Messiah. I see sinners in a church, I see sinners in a church. Sometimes I might be introvert, there's a war inside. I hear battle cries, mothers burying sons, young boys playing with guns. The devil's a liar, fulfill your wildest desires. Now I don't wanna be the one to look to this, but if you can't feel pain, then you can't feel the opposite. The fight between the yin and yang's a fight you'll never win. I study humans, that makes me an anthropologist. I'm not into politics, but I know it's dark times. Parts of the world still living in a. But if I don't take this winner's flight, that's career suicide. Though I should have been a friend when your grandma died. I see the illness, see my aunt laying in her bed. I see her soul rising as her body gets closer to death. Let's go. Say what? Now I'll make it, don't you cry. Because I need a license
to feel. Internal wounds and I'm not trying to be healed. I sabotage what you're trying to build, cause the feelings I keep aside, but it's time to reveal. I hate the thought of just being a burden. I hate that these conversations are surface. Sim's an artist or Sim be the person. To you I'm smiling but really I'm hurting. I dedicate my life and gave my heart over 20-something years. Left wondering how I even feel, but was it even worth it? I bottle up and I spill it in verses. One day I'm worthless, next day I'm a wordsmith. Close to success but to happiness I'm the furthest. At night I wonder if my tears will dry on their own. Hoping I will fulfill Amy's. Angel said don't let ego be enough. And the demon was telling me that like they strip you of everything you're deserving. Realize there is a prison and us, we are conditioned as much. It's like they can't sleep till our spirit is crushed. How much fighting must we do before fearless enough? All we've seen is broken homes around poverty. Corrupts government officials' lives. Atrocities. How they talking on what's threatening the economy. Knocking down communities to re-up on properties. I'm directly affected, more than just bother me. Look beyond the surface, don't see what you wanna see. My speech ain't involuntary, projecting attention straight from my lungs. I'm a black woman and I'm a proud one. We walk in blind faith, not knowing the outcome. But as long as we're unified, then we've already won.